A beautiful life in our Buddhist learning is one where we have a lot of, our mind is very clear. When we have a very calm, peaceful, and clear mind, naturally we will have a beautiful life. But in order to have this calm, peaceful, and beautiful mind, we have to have certain practices that we have to do. And I think we will start with self-compassion today. So first, let's look at what is compassion. Okay, so what is compassion? Compassion is becoming aware and of. We are aware of and we are sensitive to the qualities of pain and suffering that we and others experience as a result of a sincere wish. Because we have that compassion, we know, we are aware, we are sensitive, then what we do, we have this wish that every being that we meet who is experiencing this pain and difficulty, we can help, we can remove, and we can help to resolve. So this is compassion. I think all of us are very compassionate. There was one time I remember I had a friend, and he had a younger brother. And this younger brother was coming back from work at night. And as he was coming back, he called the brother and said, okay, I'm on the way home, we will have dinner together. Hours went by, he didn't reach home. And it so happened that it was past midnight. There was this couple in a car, they were driving and they were waiting at this traffic light. This has happened in Po Chong. And then the wife noticed that there was a motorbike lying just ahead of them where there's an island. You know, sometimes when traffic lights, they have island. And she was a nurse. And something told her something was not right about this motorbike lying there. So she asked her husband to stop the car by the road and went to investigate, actually, is there anybody who has met with some accident or what? And sure enough, there was this young man lying among the bushes, and he was very badly injured from a head injury. And he was actually a hit and run case. So she was so compassionate. They were strangers, they didn't know who this person was. They carried him, put him, I think they called an ambulance, and then the ambulance took him to the hospital. He was in ICU for a few days and declared brain dead after a few days. So you see how compassion is. To a perfect stranger, we are very good. When we are strangers, we can do humanity. This is what connects us in humanity. If we see a dog or a cat suffering, we also do what we can do. What more human beings? We can do that, right? We are very good at that. But as we come closer and closer to our loved ones, to some we are very compassionate. To others, we are very harsh. But it when comes close to heart, to our very own self, we become very hard, like batu, and sometimes like ice cube, like that, very cold to ourselves. We cannot bring happiness to ourselves. We cannot have this beautiful mind. And I think I want to take this opportunity. What is self-compassion? Why we need self-compassion? So compassion is the instinctive. We have this very natural ability to be kind and considerate towards ourselves when we suffer. When we feel pain, when we feel inadequate, then instead of ignoring this pain that is arising in us, instead of ignoring it, instead of blaming ourselves with self-criticism, then we have self-compassion for one another. So one day I was on this first time, I took an aeroplane. You know, I was on the plane, and I'm like the kampung girl, didn't know what is this plane about. So there was this lady who came and she started demonstrating how to, what are the safety procedures. And I looked around, I was the only fellow who was paying attention. Everybody else very busy doing something else. Then it's because I was the first time I hear these things going on. No? And then the flight attendant made this instruction, said that if in an emergency, if the oxygen mask falls from the above cabin, what you have to do is you have to wear it first, and then only you have to attend to your children or your dependents. And at the time, I was traveling with my 2 boys. One was about probably 4, and the other was maybe a little bit younger. And I was aghast. And how can they say that I have to wear the mask first, then only I have to wear for the children? The children are so precious. I have to wear for them first. And I was very indignant now. I said, these people don't know what they're doing. And then only I found out, why do you have to wear the mask first? It's because the time window, when the cabin decompresses, we only have a few seconds in order for us to put the mask and also to help the people beside us. Imagine if we were helping the child. Child how they are, they throw tantrums, they start crying, and they start doing all kind of nonsensical stuff, and here you are struggling with them. So what will happen? You won't be able to save them, and you're also not able to save ourselves. So that is why they give this instruction, please wear your mask first before you help somebody else. Because if you yourself are wearing the mask, very fast you can put it on, adjust yourself, and then you can, very fast, within seconds, you can help the other person. But if you're helping the other person and you don't help yourself, what will happen is, we will both also kaput already. Yeah? So this is about self-compassion, I thought a very nice analogy about self-compassion. So we must also remember self-compassion. When we talk about self-compassion, it's not about this very narcissistic obsession with me or very selfishness. It's not about selfishness. So if you are selfish, if you think about me, mine, then that is not self-compassion. The second thing is, when we have self-compassion, it is actually it is not like, okay, I be compassionate to myself. You tell Sister Levine, you must be compassionate. Then you say, okay, I will be. Then next minute you forget about it. But it is taking small, organic, natural. It has to come out naturally. Why? Because you understand you are suffering. You realize you are suffering. And then you take baby steps to having this self-compassion. Then the third thing is, when we have self-compassion, we will cultivate a very kind mind. So we have mental well-being. When we have mental well-being, we will naturally have physical well-being. Our actions will be will be beautiful. So self-compassion also means that it is not a weakness. People think being self-compassionate is a weakness, but it is actually a very strong foundation from where our generosity, and there's a lot of courage involved. When you want to be self-compassionate, you have to be very brave, fearful. So I sit here, actually I'm very compassionate to myself because I have to deliver Dhamma talk today. So just so the heart was beating already, so I say, hey, all's well, man. It's okay, it's all right. But you never see my heart beating very fast, right? Because I have a lot of self-love. I said, because when I give this talk, many people may benefit. We never know. Yeah. So this is about self-compassion. Now I'm going to ask you all a question. So the question is, who is the most dearest and cherished other than yourself? And you know, this question was actually asked to the Buddha. Do you know that this question was actually posed to the Buddha? And what do you think the Buddha gave answer? What do you think the Buddha would have given the answer? Thyself. Very good. You know why? Why you have to be good to yourself? There's a story behind it. So the story is, one day, this King Pasenadi, you know, in the Buddhist scriptures, King Pasenadi is very well known. King Pasenadi and his wife was Queen Malika. So this King Pasenadi and Queen Malika, they were very devout followers of the Buddha. And one day, this King Pasenadi, he was in quite a romantic mood, I would say, you know, quite romantic. It's not Valentine's Day, sorry, because the Valentine's Day not yet discovered at that time. So he went to Queen Malika and he said, He said, Malika, he asked this question of Malika. Because you know why he asked this question? He was expecting to say, "Oh King, I love you the most." You know, he thought she will answer that way. You know, he was hoping, and then he was thinking, if she answered that way, then she will ask me, "Who do you love most, King?" And then she will say, "You lah." And then they'll be very romantic, right? So he was thinking like that lah, this king. So he asked her this question, and Malika was a very wise person. She knows, if this way also susah, that way also susah. Because also the king was thinking she will say she loved the Buddha the most because she was very devoted to the Buddha. So when he asked her who is the most dearest other than herself, then Queen Malika replied. She said, "I love myself more than anything else, O great king. But at the same time, I love you just the same." Pandai, not? So clever, right? So clever. She said, "I also love you 100%. I love you." The king said, "Mani macam mana?" He said. So okay lah. He said then he was not so happy. So he went to see the Buddha, and then he consulted the Buddha, and the Buddha said this verse, and this is what the Buddha said. Having explored every quarter with the mind, one finds no one dearer than oneself. 4 quarters of the mind, that means you can live north, south, east, west. You can see in the mind, there are also many, many directions. That means in any direction that you look, there's no one other than yourself who is dearer to ourselves. Likewise for others, everybody is the same. So if you say you love your mama, then you better go and check again. Today you learn that the Buddha said, actually we love ourselves. If there is a fire and your hand is one that will burn, you will take it out first, right? So it's dear to us. Ourself is very dear to us. If there's a car coming, you don't stand there and then you said, okay, I love that person, I push and I stand. No, we will take care of ourselves also. So he said, no one loves themselves. Each one holds themselves dear, so no one who loves themselves would harm no other. So if you love oneself, you should not harm yourself. And that's what the Buddha said to King Pasenadi. So Pasenadi was very happy, and then he went back. And this is what the Buddha has given us in this sutta, Mallika Sutta, the Samyutta Nikaya, Book of Trees. So from this sutta we can learn that actually we are dear. One is dear to oneself. And because the Buddha said we are dear to oneself, then we should never harm. Just as we will never harm another person, we also should not harm ourselves. And we do not harm ourselves by meaning that we poke ourselves with a knife or we take a gun and shoot ourselves, but we harm ourselves mentally. Mostly it is our mental harm that we do. And then there's another sutta, even in the Dhammapada, verse 157, also the Buddha said, if one knows that one is dear to oneself, one should protect oneself well. During any of the 3 watches of life, the wise man should guard against evil. That means 3 watches. What is the 3 watch? Not Seiko, Rolex in one hand. It's not that kind of a watch. When you're young, when you're middle-aged, when you're very old, hair white already, still, the Buddha said, we must be on the guard against any evil that we do to others and also to ourselves. We do a lot of harm to ourselves, but we never know, that we're actually harming ourselves. And this story, this is a very interesting story about this because it talks about many lifetimes. So there was this prince, his name was Bodhi Rajakumara. So Bodhi Rajakumara and his wife, in this lifetime he was Prince Bodhi Rajakumara, but in a previous life, they were also husband and wife. And it so happened in this life, he had built a very beautiful palace, very nice palace, so he invited the king over for dana. He wanted to do some good deeds, so he called the Buddha, invited the Buddha for a dana. And when the Buddha arrived in the house, there was this piece of white cloth from the entrance to the inner sanctum of the house. So when the Buddha arrived, the Buddha saw this cloth and he stood there. He stood and he looked at Ananda. Ananda knows what the Buddha wants. And Venerable Ananda told the Bodhi Rajakumara, can you please remove this cloth? And the Buddha asked Bodhi Rajakumara, did you make an aspiration that if I stepped on this cloth, you will be blessed with children? And Bodhi Rajakumara shook his head. Yes. Actually, they were childless. This couple was childless. So he knew the Buddha is coming to the house, so he laid this cloth and he said, if the Buddha steps on this cloth, that means I'm going to get children. And the Buddha knew this couple will not, possibly not, they may not have children. I didn't say cannot have children or won't have children, but they may not have children. Why the Buddha knows this? Because in a past life, these two were also husband and wife. And what happened is they were deserted they were shipwrecked and they were on an island. And then they went there, they're hungry, They go eat up all the eggs of many, many animals there. It's okay if they eat, but the Buddha said they were not regretful or remorseful. They were not remorseful, no, they just simply, without any remorse, without any thinking that we actually, when we take permission, we have to take things, we ask for permission. So that's why when we eat our food also, we are very grateful, we are very thankful that we have taken this food. Because many people have sacrificed, many beings have sacrificed their lives for us. People have helped us to eat this food. So we are very thankful. So they were not remorseful. I don't know what happened, but because of that incident, this life, these two were not able to have any children up to that point. What it means here, the Buddha said that we have to have compassion. That means in whatever we do, we are very sensitive. Little things like this, we pay attention. So in this chapter, again, the Buddha says, everyone is dear to oneself. And again, in this verse, Dhammapada verse, the Buddha said, Kicho manusa patilabo, kichang machana chivitang. The life of difficult mortals, people like us, it says, rare is to gain birth as a human being. Difficult is the life of mortals. All of us are mortals. Anybody here immortal? Will live forever and ever after, happily? Ada ka? Tada. We're also afraid of COVID, how to be immortal. So, the Buddha said, difficult is the life of mortal. At the moment we are born, till the moment we die, our life is so rare to be born. And then on top of that, that life that we come into is also so difficult. And this source of suffering that we all have, actually it lies within us. It is not outside us. So not only we have personal dissatisfaction, we have problems, we have a lot of challenges in our life. But most of the time, instead of actually sorting it out, what we do, we also share the suffering with the ones around us. And then vice versa. You got problem with husband, you don't do sorting, then your mother-in-law come in, father-in-law come in, neighbor also come in, everybody come in. So there's a lot of sharing of our suffering. Very happy people, we like to share our suffering. Create more and more suffering. So the Buddha said, difficult is the life of a mortal. Then, you see, the Buddha was so compassionate. Many, many aeons, the unfathomable time period the Buddha took to perfect those qualities in order to become an enlightened being. And then after becoming an enlightened being, the Buddha searched and many, many methods he tried. Finally, the Buddha discovered and became the Buddha. And then the Buddha experienced his true freedom and he taught the Dhamma to us. The heart of the Buddha, the Bodhisattva and the Buddha, it quiver, it shake, because he see the suffering of human being is so much. And they don't have the Dhamma, it's so dark, so the heart quivers. And this great compassion of the Buddha is the one that drives him to enlightenment, because the Buddha knows without the Dhamma, human beings are so unprotected. They are so vulnerable. They are so exposed to this terrible suffering of existence. And so the Buddha worked for the benefit of others with a lot of wisdom and this great compassion. Anukappam, the Buddha had this great compassion. And then the Buddha said, it's so rare. The Buddha's teaching, the Buddha said, it is so rare to become a human being. It's just like in this ocean. It's a vast ocean. Every 1,000 years, a blind turtle comes up and at the time it comes up, its head is put into the yolk that comes up 1,000 years. The odds of that is so rare, right? So the Buddha said, this is the simile the Buddha gave, that being born a human is so rare in our human life. So knowing that our life is so rare, and then our life is so difficult, and then the Buddha said, even to hear the Dhamma is even more rare. So we all thought we hear Dhamma every Sunday, we come here and sit, and then we listen, we all very good already, very lucky people. But actually the Buddha said, do you know now people, many part of the world, they are waiting for the bomb to run into their house, not run, drop into their house. So you see how much of suffering they have, and we are very peaceful here. We are living in the same planet, planet Earth. One part of the earth is suffering. Human being is suffering. People are staying in refugee camp. Another part of the world, we have opportunity to hear the Dhamma. So the Buddha said, it's very rare. So this Dhamma of hearing is so precious and it's so rare. And the Buddha said, the arising of the Buddha, the one that is going to teach that Dhamma that releases us, is even more rare, because only one. There are 8 billion people in the world. At the time when the Buddha arose in the world, there were not 8 billion. I don't know how many millions there were. But in all this time, only one can become a Samma Sambuddha, who will be able to have that ability because of the practice of perfection. It's not possible for anybody else. So this verse we have to learn by heart and remember. If we have self-compassion, we have to remember this verse. Kiccho manussa patilabo, kiccang machana jivitang, kiccang sadhamma savanang, kiccho bhuthana upado. It's very, very rare. All these 4 is so rare. We must remember. Then we have great compassion for ourselves because of this rarity of the human life. So I want to just go through with you some of this, pain, or this common emotional pain that we feel, that sometimes we have no compassion for ourselves. Because of these things, we have little compassion for ourselves. How many of us have given yourself a hug? I love myself so much. Have you ever given yourself a pat on the back and said, well done, well done, well done? Ada? And how many have you have said, it's okay, it's all right, I'm okay, I feel hurt, I feel pain, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Have you done that? Have you? Very good. Very good. That is self-compassion. So sometimes we have a lot of pain within us, but we do not know how to have compassion for ourselves. Okay? So the first is guilt. I mean, there are many. Don't tell me, Sister Paru, what about this? What about... Hello, excuse me. Sister, give me only 45 minutes. I cannot list everything. So I have to give only some. There are many of this emotional pain that we all go through. So I have chosen a few. The first is guilt. So what is this state of guilt? It is an emotional state. We have this emotion with this, where we experience conflict within us, pain within us, because we have done something that we should not have done. Have you come across this? Where you have done something and then you really beat yourself over it. Oh, how could I have done this? How could I have done this to my loved one? How could I have done this to someone who has trusted me? Right? You feel a lot of guilt, right? How could I have neglected my parents after they go already, then you moan and groan? Example. Or we feel a lot of guilt of not having done something. First, we are guilty, we have done something wrong. We also feel guilty because we did not do enough, or we did not do when we were supposed to do certain things. So this is how guilt arises, and this guilt, sometimes it does not go away easily. What happens? It remains in your mind. It's hidden somewhere, filing cabinet put inside already, very far, dark corner at the back there already. Then what happens is, one day that guilt will come up. While you're sitting there, then this thing will come up. I should have done this. Then you feel bad again. And then you start ruminating, thinking about it, and it goes on and on, story. So we have a lot of guilt. Sometimes this guilt will end up in people suing each other, people taking the gun and shooting. Sometimes people hang themselves. People go and commit suicide. They do a lot of things because they're so guilty. They cannot provide for the family, or the person, you have done something and you just cannot take it. So there's a lot of guilt. This is one of the emotional pain that we feel. Sounds common, right? Correct. We got lah. Don't bluff, don't have, got lah. The next one is rejection. Rejection also quite familiar, right? This pain that we have. Most of the time, rejection is the act of pushing something away or something we don't like. Certain things happen to us and we don't like. If I tell Sister Levin, actually you did like this, you feel pain, right? So you feel rejected. You feel, why she don't appreciate me? I do so much. I do so much sasana work. Sister come and say like that. You know how painful my heart? Like she take knife and poke my heart like that. So we have a lot of rejection and pain within our heart. I give example only, sister, don't cry. So we may have experienced rejection like this from our family, friends, romantic partner, husband, wife, many cases of rejection. And sometimes it is very big. This rejection is hopeless. It's like you're rejected in that. You die also want to go to that university. And then they give you letter, say cannot, you are not accepted. You die, you looking forward to the job. And you don't get the job. So in our everyday life, there are many rejection. You apply for a tender. Brother Seki send in tender. Letter come, tada. Brother Chong got already. Oh, you feel so rejected. You feel so painful. You're looking forward to getting that because you're so sure you are going to get it. But then it doesn't happen. So your rejection is experienced in many ways. And it is part of our life, We cannot say this kind of things cannot happen to us because that is part of human existence. And then how do we cope? In mental health, they say these kind of people, they are so aggrieved that when they are not accepted, and what do? It's like they just cannot take this rejection anymore. That's why you see many people, they take their lives because that rejection is a reflection of their sadness that is going on. They just don't have compassion for themselves. So I've heard so many cases during my lifetime, many years I've lived. I think I've heard at least about 7 or 8 cases of love failure. They call it love failure. The parents look after them for 20 over years. One fellow comes along and after a few months reject them, they go and hang themselves. You see, that is the deep. And you know why this happens? That's why the Buddha said, the life of the mortal is very difficult. Why? Because you carry this all from the past life. You meet people is from the past life. No, you reject them, they will reject you. Things like that, causes and conditions will come. Okay, we next go to grief. Grief is a natural response. I think every one of us will go through grief at one time or another when usually it's associated with losing a loved one. And then we see that there is like our life has come to an end. We just cannot see the, the separation is so painful for us. So grief is one of these emotional pain that we feel. And then we also have loneliness. Sometimes loneliness is we want to be alone, and that is we don't want any human contact. We feel alone. But sometimes people, you can stay with many people, But yet, you will feel very lonely. You have this rejection kind of a thing, experience isolation. And lonely people are typically, when they are lonely, most of the time, lonely people, you watch out for these people, they have a lot of psychiatric disorders. They will end up having psychiatric disorders, and they will have increased instances of mental disorders. Usually the lonely people, those who don't talk a lot, keep things to themselves, they suffer inside. And the noisy ones, like me, I think maybe probably I won't get psychotic disorder. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. So those who are very lonely, quiet, keep to themselves, they will end up, this is from the, what do you call that, people, psychiatric journals. When you go and read, they will say people like this have a tendency to have disorders like this. So look out for those who have this lonely feeling. I have a friend last time, she said, one day she told me, I threw away all my catalog of songs, all the sad songs. She liked to listen to sad songs. She was going through a bout of sadness because on the day her sister got married, her elder sister got married, and they were going back to Penang. All of them were going back to Penang, and they actually boarded a train. At that time, the train service was quite convenient, so they were taking a train. And just before they boarded the train, the father had a heart attack and collapsed on the station platform. And he passed away so suddenly, it was a big a pain to her. And from that day, she was very moody and broody. And then she said she liked to listen to the sad song to remind her, to like keep that feeling within her. And one day she realized better, this thing is too much already. So she threw away. She said, after I throw away all this, I listen to more happy songs, positive songs. So you see, when we are, sometimes we are very emotional, we have emotional pain, and we keep listening to all this negative thinking. Just like, why does the sun shining? And then you ask, why the sun shining? You ask the sun. The sun also got no answer. He said, Pada, I will shine until evening come, then night will take over. So we have this loneliness. And then we also have this brooding and worrying. Brooding is we think about the past. We think about something that has happened, and then we play over and over, like the Rosa, the record player, like that. We mull, we deeply think about, and then what we should do. We are so sad. We just cannot get away from that event. We keep replaying it over and over again. And then we worry means we worry about the future. And then there is this failure. Everything we do, there's a failure. We also have this very big emotional pain. Now, when we have self-compassion, there are these little tips. Sister Joanne actually put this word tips. I think it's very nice. Instead of saying, ways to overcome, to bring up self-compassion, Sister put here self-compassion tips. So these are things that we can do in order, if we are having pain, if we are having this emotional pain, which is caused actually by our attachment, our greed, and our aversion, and most importantly is our ignorance. We are so deluded now, we cannot see that this is all part and parcel of our living and how we can overcome it. So the first thing about self-compassion, when we have this emotional pain, is we become mindful. We look directly into this pain. You just head on with this pain, and then you're aware of the body. So first step is we acknowledge that we have this emotional pain. Most of the time, we don't want to acknowledge the pain. We push it aside. We hide it. We bury it. We file it away. We say, I don't want to look at it. I just don't want to face. Because there's if they face that pain, there could be some truth in it. So first step, when we have this kind of emotion, we are feeling guilty, we have rejection, many of these times we look at it and acknowledge, yes, I feel the pain. Yes, Paru, you are feeling the pain. Yes, I am feeling the pain. Secondly, what we do is we experience that pain. That means we see within us, we have this, the body is very painful. There's some kind of tightness, right? Our chest gets very tight. Our heart is as though somebody is like squeezing our heart. The pain is so much. You squeeze the heart. Our body feels very hot sometimes. Head also very cloudy. Our thinking becomes very cloudy. So when we are going through this process, just experience it. When you're mindful, you can experience it. We can see the flow of emotions that is going through us. And then you investigate. Investigate what is it, this nature of this pain, and what is it I am believing about this pain. So when many years ago, when my husband passed away and I was sitting there, this grief, so much of grief in me. And then when I looked, at that time I didn't know mindfulness, but somehow that awareness came. And then you know what happened? You know what I realized? I realized, hey, Paru, you are actually, you're not crying for your husband, the one who has gone. You're actually crying for yourself. This thought. Then I said, yeah, betul lah. You know why? Why? You know why I'm crying for myself? Because now I am the one who have to do everything. Because the mind keeps saying, oh, now you have to work harder. You have to take care of the children. You have to take care of the house. And so on and so forth. So who are you crying for? Yeah. Yourself, right? Correct or not? So this realization came, the truth came to me. So this is how it is. Actually, we think we are crying, I miss you, darling. When will I see you again? Tada, all this cerita. But actually, we are feeling that pain because now I have to do everything. The I is very strong, but I didn't see the I. After that, it's because of the I, thinking that I have to do everything. Then only using the name of that person to create all this grief for me. I stood up and I went about doing my work after that. So you can see with mindfulness, you just face the problem and you can investigate. The mind is very good one. It will show you one. It's just that sometimes you very don't want to see, refuse to see. And then that's where we all get into problems. Okay, the second one is a skillful reflection. Whatever the negative states that arise, we have used positive mental states. And the 4 positive mental states I always like to quote is when we have a lot of reverence, contentment, humility, and we have gratitude. In the Mangala Sutta, you can find this. Garavocha, Nivatocha, Santutticha, Katanyuta. When we have reverence, whatever happens to us, we have reverence for that experience that is coming to us. So we have gratitude. My husband died, then only I'm very grateful to him, When he around, I'm not grateful. When he died already, I'm so grateful, you know why? After he died already, he passed away, then I can learn Dhamma already. The Dhamma just appeared, and I become a good practitioner after that. When he is around, ask me go temple, I say, sorry, very busy, doing a lot of things. Unnecessary things, worldly things. But when he is gone already, I'm so grateful. Every day he's photographed there, I say, thank you, my darling. You are my sweetheart. You are so kind. You have left so that I can better myself. I'm so grateful to you. So have gratitude. In a pain comes, have gratitude for the pain. Have reverence, humility. Sometimes people cause us pain, be humble. Maybe there's some lesson to be learned. So this is skillful reflection that we can have. The other one is, of course, letting go. When we let go of this grasping, we grasp too much. So when we let go, then we have compassion for ourselves. And the 4th one is the wisdom. Wisdom is like this. We, what do you call that? There was this, I like to quote this person, Rumi. This Rumi is a very, 700 years ago, he's a Persian poet, and he lived in what is present-day Afghanistan. And he says, this human body, this being, is like a guest house. That means we are like a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes like an unexpected visitor. That means every day we experience good thing, joyful thing, unhappy thing, painful thing. So it all comes to us to this guest house. It's like hotel. A lot of guests come, right? everywhere, all over the world, guests come. So he said, we are like this. Every day these things come to us. So he said, welcome and entertain them all. It's like guests you receive, you entertain, you take care of them. And then even if they are a crowd of sorrows, and they come into your house, not only they come, what they do? They destroy your whole house. They empty your house and they destroy all the furniture. You still treat them as guests honorably, meaning that all this pain comes to us. We also treat them like our guests. That means we take care, we really check what is going on. Why am I having this guilt? Why am I having this rejection? And investigate. So they may be clearing you out. He says, he's so wise. He says, they may clear you out for some new delight. Something good is coming. So you clear out the old thing. So isn't that nice? So it's like that. Death has to come in order to look for gratefulness to come. In my case, death has to come. Grief has to come before I can learn gratitude. You see how self-compassion can turn around for us. So this is a wonderful poem by this Persian poet. And friends, we are going to do some self-compassion exercise. But remember, whatever our sadness, our fear, anger, our frustration, whatever our despair, we don't shut them out. Don't shut them out. And don't try to get rid of them. And don't try to fight with them. Sometimes we put boxing gloves and fight. Why you like this one? We say, why you so stupid one? How can you put all the money into the stock market? Why you do like that? How come you do this? You get no gratitude. We scold ourselves. Or not? We scold ourselves, right? Very often. Bodoh lah you. Bodoh. Mate say yesterday I was watching. He say, bodoh like that. We say. And then sometimes we numb them, we go and freeze them and numb them, and then what we have to do is whatever it is, we are human, we all make mistakes, we all have serious life challenges, and we carry our imperfections throughout this life, even into our next life and life to come. If from past life, we have actually carried all this. If you don't get rid of this, we don't come to terms with it, we don't understand it, we don't release it, it'll carry on, carry over, carry it forward. In accounting, there's a thing called carry it forward. Like that, you carry forward to the next life. And that is, again, you must remember, the Buddha said, hey, hello, we said. What did the Buddha say? It's very, very rare to take a kicho manusa patilabo. It's so rare to be born as a human. Then we think, never mind, next life I continue. Hello, excuse me. If you are born in Ukraine, you won't say like that. You will say, better I born Malaysia. So we carry all these imperfections and then we struggle and we struggle. So self-compassion is very, very vital for our health and for our happiness, not only our mental, but our physical. So have this energy to recognize, cherish, honor all this pain that comes to us. There is a reason for it. There is a lesson to be learned to it. And believe in your own self-worth, your own ability, and then you learn in life and you reflect over it. So with that, I will now hand it over for our self-compassion exercise. And for this, we hope all of you can sit quietly, sit upright, listen carefully. You don't have to close your eyes. There's some instructions that is going to come. So we will enjoy our self-compassion exercise.
This exercise can be done anytime, or when you feel or experience a difficult moment and need a little self-compassion. There are 3 steps in this exercise. The first step is to acknowledge the stressful or difficult situation. The second is acceptance. And the third is to cultivate kindness and goodwill to ourselves. As you say these phrases, try putting your hands over your heart. This kind of physical gesture helps us to connect with our intention, to respond to our difficulties with kindness and care. The key is to offer ourselves goodwill, not to change the difficult emotions, but because we feel this difficult emotion. It is like giving a hug to a child with a flu. You are not hugging him or her to take away the flu, but to give the child some comfort because he or she is feeling miserable. The late Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh said, "It's like a mother. When the baby is crying, she picks up the baby and she holds the baby tenderly in her arms. Your pain, your anxiety is your baby. You have to take care of it. You have to go back to yourself to recognize the suffering in you, embrace the suffering, and you get a relief." Sitting in a comfortable position, you can choose to gently close or keep your eyes open. First, we need to acknowledge this is a moment of suffering. This is difficult. This is stressful. I am feeling pain. I am feeling hurt. Secondly, we consciously acknowledge suffering is a part of life. This is part of the human experience. We all experience difficulties, and that is something that connects us to each other. We are not alone, even when it feels that way. I am not the only one who is struggling with this pain. Other people feel this way too. We are all in the same boat, trying to do the best with what we can and with what we have. May I be kind to myself this moment. May I accept myself just as I am. Thirdly, we remind ourselves of what we need to hear as we face this situation. May I believe in myself. May I be kind to myself unconditionally. May I be happy and free from suffering. May I have courage. May I find peace. May I be healthy. May we learn to live together in peace. May I cherish myself. Continuing to keep your mindfulness and awareness of your body and feelings, we will begin the second self-compassion exercise. Relax your body by taking a few deep breaths. Feel the breath going in and leaving the body. Select a person in the room who is beside or in front of you. For our friends on Zoom, select anyone on your screen. He or she can be a friend you know or someone you see on the screen. This is a non-vocal exercise. Just be aware of whatever that arises, not forcing it, but just be natural and accepting. Are you set? With attention on the person, repeat to yourself, just like me, this person is seeking happiness in life. Just like me, this person is trying to avoid suffering in his or her life. Keeping attention on this person, repeat to yourself, just like me, this person has known sadness, loneliness, and despair. Just like me, this person is seeking to fill his or her needs. Keeping our focus on this person, repeat to yourself, just like me, this person is learning about life. Just like me, this person is traveling this samsaric journey.
Okay, friends, I will leave you after this with this very beautiful passage again by Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, the late Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh. He said, our pain, all the suffering we have, it's like when we are like a mother, and when the baby is crying, she picks up the baby, she holds the baby tenderly in her arms. So when pain comes to us, we are like the mother, we hold the baby close to us. We hold the pain. And then this pain, this baby, this is your anxiety, is your baby. You have to take care of it. Don't push it away. You have to go back to yourself. Recognize the suffering in you. Embrace the suffering, and you will get relief. So with that, friends, I hope every one of you will take back this teaching and be self-compassionate, practice self-compassion to oneself. This is very important, and I leave you wishing everyone good health, peace, and happiness. Namo Buddhaya.